Chun borrows a mountain of cash from the mafia, buys the most expensive ice creams, hires the most expensive contractor to build his safe house because only he knows that the apocalypse is coming, so there won't be any need to pay anyone back. Lujing Pedestrian Street, March 2nd, 2030. The place was unusually quiet, and inside a dim little room off the street, someone's voice cut through the silence, asking a kid if he had any idea what borrowing 5 million from him really meant. When the lights flicked on, the speaker revealed himself, Zhang Yang, the boss of the Dahai gang and the man behind the Luchong underground bank. The kid standing before him was clearly nervous. He kept insisting that he understood that as long as brother Zhang was willing to lend, even high interest was fine. Behind Zhang, a row of bodyguards stood like carved statues, each one more intimidating than the last. Zhang Yang calmly named his terms: 4% interest, 5 million borrowed, 7 million due in half a year. He told the boy to write the IOU for 7 million and hand over collateral of equal value. Chun, the kid, hurriedly produced a document, the deed to his house. Zhang glanced at it and commented aloud that the place was old and only worth around 3 or 4 million at best. But in his mind, he was already laughing. A large flat over 140 square meters being used as collateral for a loan shark? A fat sheep had practically walked into his hands. Then he casually said that 5 million couldn't be lent out based solely on that house. The moment Chun heard that, he panicked, clasping his hands together as if praying. He begged not to lose the deal, saying 4 million would work too, that a fortune-telling master claimed his luck was soaring, and he'd surely earn several times the amount back. Zhang lowered the offer to 3.5 million, pretending it was the highest he could go. Inwardly, he sneered at how easily a young gambler could be hooked. Chan, however, reacted as if he'd just been saved from drowning, thanking Zhang with overwhelming enthusiasm and promising to repay him soon. Zhang then adjusted the final terms: repay 4.9 million in 3 months, or the house would automatically belong to him. If Chen agreed, he could write the IOU immediately and receive the funds within 3 days. Chun said there was no problem, just that he had one condition of his own. The moment he said that, Zhang's curiosity sharpened, and he leaned in to listen. 10 minutes later, Chun walked out of the room with a bright, satisfied smile on his face. From inside the room, a cheerful voice called out, thanking Chun for his patronage and telling him to take care. On his phone screen, a massive deposit lit up. Ding! Mobile account received 3.5 million yuan. Chun couldn't hold back the quiet laughter in his mind. To him, the whole situation was almost comical. In a month, the apocalypse would descend. Who in their right mind would still bother paying back a loan at that point? With the money finally in his hands, his thoughts immediately shifted to preparation. He had no intention of reliving the nightmare from his past life. Back then, a catastrophic natural disaster had struck Blue Star, reshaping the entire planet's ecosystem. Intense solar radiation pushed global temperatures to a horrifying average of 50 degrees Celsius, plunging humanity into a high-temperature apocalypse that lasted 30 days. Humans, animals, nothing survived unscathed. The world had been thrown into chaos. Meanwhile, back in the underground bank, Zhang Yang was laughing to himself. To secure the money quickly, he'd even dared to raise the interest, and he felt no shame about it. In his eyes, gamblers hardly deserved a home. One of his men cautiously pointed out that Chen's house was worth over 4 million, yet they'd pushed it to 3.5, and Chen accepted instantly. Maybe it was a trap, but Zhang simply waved it off. He claimed he'd seen countless gamblers, people who would trade even their families for cash. What was a house to someone like that? He joked that the world was full of good people who paid extra interest without complaint. Chen, meanwhile, had his own private thoughts. He remembered all too vividly how he had once boasted, "You think you can scam me? I'm the man who borrowed from every loan shark in Luoyang in a single day. Interest rates? I laugh at them. Once the money's in my hands, don't even dream of getting it back." He knew exactly what was coming. After the apocalypse, the earth dried up, vegetation withered, creatures mutated, and society crumbled. Supplies became so scarce that people threw away whatever morals they had left just to secure a bit of food or water. Those who possessed resources were like kings. Even billionaires and celebrities ended up begging for a hot sausage or a sip of clean water. Those who failed to adapt were left to wander the dead streets until they met their miserable end. But this time was different. He had been reborn. He had foreknowledge. And before disaster arrived, there was still enough time. Time to prepare, time to build, and time to make sure he would never suffer like he once had. Chun eventually wandered past a group of girls who were giggling together, and the sight caught his attention. He recognized the boxes in their hands and immediately thought to himself that this must be the legendary ice cream assassin, the kind of luxury treat said to be even pricier than the so-called noble of ice creams. He stared for a moment, remembering how, in his past life, he never dared buy one for himself. Instead, he had wasted money treating that woman Lu wenching to it again and again. Feeding such high-end ice cream to her felt more wasteful than feeding it to a dog. The more he thought about it, the more his chest tightened. Fine then, this time he was going to enjoy it. Without hesitation, he marched straight in and cut the line, stunning the group of girls behind him. He raised his voice and called out, "Hello! Give me 10 of every type of ice cream you have. Thanks." The girls were left blinking in disbelief. Whispers rippled through them. Was he serious? Could he even afford it? And wasn't he ridiculously handsome while ordering? Their impressions shifted instantly, and their eyes practically sparkled at him after such a bold display. The receptionist, however, had her own concerns. She thought the very thing they had been giggling about earlier, this ice cream assassin, wasn't cheap. And this handsome guy didn't look like someone from a wealthy family. She hesitantly asked again if he was serious, reminding him that 10 of each category would exceed 20,000 yuan. Chun simply kept a straight face. One of the girls clicked her tongue and mocked him outright, saying that with those shabby clothes, if he could really afford it, she would kowtow to him right there in public. Chun glanced at her calmly and asked whether she meant those words. She fired back, asking if he seriously expected her to kowtow to him and what level he thought he was to act so pretentious. Chen's smirk only widened. He told her he had tried to give her a way out, but she had insisted on jumping in herself. Now she was definitely kowtowing today. Even Jesus couldn't stop it. He declared that much with confidence. The girl sputtered in frustration, completely thrown off. Chun then turned back to the counter, still wearing that amused smirk, and told the staff to package all the ice cream by portion. He would take everything. He lifted his phone and showed the completed payment transaction. The receptionist nearly froze on the spot. After staring at the screen, she stammered that she needed to call the manager and asked him to wait a moment. The manager hurried out the moment he heard the commotion. Introducing himself as Fei Chi, he politely asked what Mr. Chin needed. Chun glanced around the store and casually told him to calculate the total cost of all the ice cream in the shop, adding that they didn't need to stay open for business today. Manager Fei froze for a second, then quickly checked his tablet. With a respectful bow, he asked Chun to wait a moment. Inside, however, his thoughts were spinning. Who exactly was this young master? With a single sentence, he had practically covered the store's entire monthly turnover. Despite the luxury prices, very few people actually bought these ice creams. Most customers only looked. When the calculations were done, Fei Chi reported that the items currently on display were worth about 70,000 yuan, and counting the inventory and storage, the total value reached around 1 million. Chun only smirked at the number. In his mind, it wasn't expensive at all. If the apocalypse was coming anyway, there was no harm in clearing out their entire inventory. Worst case, he could just stay home and eat ice cream during doomsday. He told Manager Fei he would transfer a deposit of 300,000 yuan first, then instructed him to deliver all the ice cream in storage to the address he provided. Manager Fei promised to handle everything personally. Chun then turned to the group of stunned girls and generously told them to choose whatever ice cream they wanted. The entire shop was on him today. Chaos immediately broke out. The girls squealed, gushed, and practically sparkled with excitement. One shrieked that it was amazing. Another declared that he was insanely rich. Another sighed that the more she looked at him, the more handsome he seemed. But Chun had one more thing to settle. He glanced at the girl who had mocked him earlier and calmly reminded her that the offer didn't apply to her. He was still waiting for her kowtow. The color drained from her face. Embarrassed and flustered, she stammered before finally bending as low as she could, wishing she had never opened her mouth in the first place. When everything was settled, the sun dipped toward the horizon, marking what had turned out to be a rather beautiful day for Chun. He sat on a bench, enjoying one of his newly acquired ice creams. As expected from an assassin, the taste and texture were phenomenal. He then took out a certain item, one that allowed anything stored inside to remain in perfect condition forever. That meant fresh ice cream anytime he wanted. With such a treasure, he thought even celebrities and young models could be summoned with a snap of his fingers. The thought alone made him grin. He hadn't expected it, but even his ability had been reborn with him. In his past life, abilities had only begun awakening one after another after the apocalyptic disaster struck. The fact that his had surfaced early this time was something he couldn't fully explain, but he knew one thing for certain: it would become his greatest trump card from now on. He let out a quiet sigh, thinking about how many tasks still lay ahead of him. Just as he was gathering his thoughts, his phone suddenly rang. The ringtone lit up the screen with the words, "Ring ring, the little fairy is calling." The moment he saw it, a wave of unpleasant memories surged up. The caller ID couldn't have been more irritating: Lu Wenqing. He clicked his tongue and muttered to himself that of all people, it had to be her. What rotten timing. He had been having such a good day. Chun picked up the phone while murmuring Lu Wenqing's name. The moment he did, a wave of memories surged up, memories of how, after his parents passed away, she had appeared in his life like a savior. Back then, he had been foolish enough to believe she was his light, never realizing she had been eyeing nothing more than the small inheritance his parents left behind. He remembered how she used to lean close and relay what her mother supposedly said, that if he wanted to marry her, the fully paid apartment in the city center had to be put under her name, along with a bride price of 880,000 yuan. To him now, it was obvious she had been a bottomless pit, reaching out again and again until his savings were drained. She always justified it by claiming it was all for their little family, and even encouraged him to sell his family's old house, saying it was outdated anyway. Eventually, she had even pushed to sell the ancestral home passed down for generations just to secure that luxury apartment she wanted. He recalled a moment later in their relationship when he had been shoved to the ground while she introduced him to a so-called young master, saying he was the person she had mentioned, the one who supposedly met the requirements for special materials. That was the instant he finally understood the truth. During the apocalypse, he had done everything he could to protect her, but she had sold him out to a stronger backer without hesitation. The backer had taken one glance at him and commented that there was nothing special about him, wondering aloud if they really needed to bother devouring someone like that. In the end, he hadn't even left behind a complete corpse. Now, with a second chance in hand, Chun simply smirked to himself. Since Lu Wenqing had come looking for him on her own, he felt it was only right to settle the old score. Later, at a high-end hotel, he answered her call with an affectionate tone, asking what was wrong. She explained that she had been out with friends and had accidentally lost a gold necklace she loved, claiming she was heartbroken over it. Chun immediately acted as though buying another was the obvious solution, but she insisted one wouldn't be enough and told him to buy 10, so she could rotate them. He played along, repeating her demand and pretending to agree easily. She asked when he had become so generous, and he replied that he had recently been lucky. He told her he had invested in virtual currency and made a small profit, so it was only natural to spend money on her. Hearing that, she sounded worried, asking if he had fallen for some scam, saying virtual currency seemed strange to her. Chun went on to explain that whether the investment was a scam or not didn't matter. She could simply watch whether he made money in the next round. He claimed that playing small had become boring and that he intended to go big this time by borrowing a substantial principal to invest even more. Since the loan required a witness, he asked her to help out, promising that once it was approved, he would give her 5% of the loan amount as compensation for her trouble. Just as he was speaking, a man's irritated voice sounded in the background, asking why she was taking so long to get ready. Lu immediately hurried to him, calling him honey and saying she would be done soon. Inwardly, however, she was comparing the profits. Spending a night with the older man earned her only 5,000 yuan, while simply signing a paper for Chun could earn her 50,000. To her, the risk seemed non-existent. It was just a signature, and she believed Chun Xiao to be too timid to ever trick her. Once the call ended, Chun thought to himself that he would be waiting for Lu Wenqing. After that, he shifted his focus to preparations, deciding it was time to build a fortress. He planned to turn the place into a structure of iron and copper within a month. He wanted bulletproof composite glass installed on all windows, along with hidden burglar bars, walls reinforced into 3-meter-thick bulletproof exteriors, and seismic fortification capable of withstanding intensity level 8 quakes. He continued listing requirements: 3-meter security glass, a full rooftop covered in solar panels with an independent energy system, air purification and filtration capable of blocking external toxins, an autonomous ecosystem with a 72-hour oxygen supply and internal water cycling devices, explosion-proof doors, and an access control system combining biometric and mechanical verification. The contractor, listening to all this, began to sweat, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the demands. Inwardly, he wondered whether Chun was some kind of doomsday prepper suffering from apocalypse delusions, or whether he had simply watched too many sci-fi movies. Before he could say anything, Chun stepped closer with a serious expression and asked whether it couldn't be done, reminding him that his resume claimed he was a defense specialist who had designed safe rooms for top tycoons. The contractor tentatively mentioned that Mr. Chen's requirements were extremely unique and high-end, though the budget might be an issue. Inwardly, however, he was thrilled, already assuming Chun was another wealthy man brainwashed by doomsday theories, someone with money to burn. Before he could say more, Chun displayed a hefty sum and stated that he would put down a 1 million yuan deposit, and the contractor could name the remaining balance himself. The contractor was stunned. Being allowed to name the price sounded unreal, and in his mind he was already celebrating his luck, convinced he had just met a rich fool who could fund his path to financial freedom in one go. Chun shook his hand enthusiastically, adding that he valued materials and quality above all else, and everything needed to pass inspection. The contractor promised confidently that there would be no problem, assuring Chun that the place would be built solid as a rock. Meanwhile, both men were thinking the exact opposite of what they were saying. Chun was silently telling himself that once the apocalypse arrived, the contractor wouldn't even be able to find him, let alone collect any remaining payment. The contractor, on the other hand, was already planning how thoroughly he was going to overcharge him. Both sides were preparing to rip each other off without the slightest guilt. Later, Chun noted to himself that the fortress construction was settled. The next step was gathering supplies: medicine, food, and daily necessities would be easy to acquire. The real threat in the apocalypse wasn't nature but the human heart after society collapsed. Cold weapons could be bought at any hardware store, but firearms, those capable of delivering fatal blows, were far more difficult to obtain. He pulled out his phone and began searching for underground channels that dealt in such items. After scrolling for a while, one particular message caught his attention. The seller claimed to have first-hand sources and access to hidden channels, boasting that there was nothing a buyer could imagine that he couldn't procure. He emphasized honest dealings and safety above all else. Chun immediately sent a reply asking how to purchase. The seller responded that he would send the address privately and instructed Chun to arrive that night at 8 p.m. sharp. Later that evening, Chun made his way to the designated location, noting as he walked that the seller had chosen a place bustling with people. He was still considering the implications when a sudden commotion caught his attention. A girl was sprinting desperately through the crowd, with several men shouting after her. One of them barked at her to stop, while another cursed furiously, demanding she halt. The girl, terrified, kept running. A moment later, she darted behind Chun as if seeking shelter. The pursuers grew even more agitated, one yelling that she should keep running if she dared, and another snarling that she must be tired of living to cheat someone in his territory. The girl pleaded for help, her voice trembling. Chun had originally intended to focus on his own plans for the night, but the moment he heard her voice and saw her face clearly, he froze. It was Lu Wenqing. He couldn't understand how she had ended up in a place like this. The sight left him momentarily stunned, unable to believe what he was seeing. One of the men managed to grab the girl and warn Chun not to come any closer. The girl was crying uncontrollably, and Chan, surprised, realized he recognized her. It was Li Yuyu, the top student goddess from his middle school days, the girl admired by countless boys. He couldn't understand how someone like her had ended up in such a situation. While he tried to process it, one of the thugs demanded that she hand over the money and said she shouldn't even think about leaving otherwise. She kept crying as more of the men gathered behind their leader, clearly waiting their turn. One of them suggested they stop wasting time. If she couldn't repay the money, she could pay in other ways instead, laughing crudely. Chen's expression darkened, and he ordered them to let her go. The thugs finally turned their attention to him. Their grip on the girl didn't loosen, and one of them, angrier than the rest, stepped forward with clenched fists, demanding to know where this reckless kid had come from. He mocked Chun for trying to play the hero and threatened to cripple him first. The moment he swung, Chun easily avoided the punch, grabbed the man's arm, and twisted it until the thug cried out in pain. Then, with a single strike to the face, Chun sent him flying. Dust and smoke rose around them as Chun stood there, unfazed. Inwardly, he noted with surprise that the strange system assisting him was something he had never possessed in his previous life. Li Yuyu also recognized him, calling out his name in disbelief. But the man still restraining her tightened his hold and warned Chun not to move or he would kill her. Before the threat even finished leaving his mouth, Chun hurled a stone straight at the man's forehead, knocking him backward. The remaining thugs hesitated, suddenly intimidated. A moment later, another young man rushed into the scene, scolding them loudly for ganging up on a girl and asking where their shame had gone. The thugs instantly cursed at him for interfering and charged. Chun and the newcomer fought side by side without needing to exchange a single word. When someone attacked from the front, Chun took him down with a punch. When someone tried to ambush from behind, the other guy blocked and countered. One by one, the punks collapsed, and even when they were down, Chun made sure to kick them away to keep them from getting up again. When the last of them fell, Chun gave a cold command for them to scram. At that moment, a notification echoed in his mind. Fear +1, panic +1, severe pain +1, despair +1, humiliation +1. Negative emotion value exceeded 10 for the first time. Spatial expansion authority unlocked. While the punks stumbled away in fear, another prompt echoed in Chen's mind, reminding him to harvest diligently so the ability could grow stronger. Chun found the concept of collecting negative emotions amusing and mentally noted how interesting this new power was. Li Yuyu, still shaken, sat on the ground and thanked him, saying she hadn't expected to meet him there. Chun helped her up gently, asked if she was hurt, and even handed her something to cover herself with. She expressed her gratitude again, but said she had urgent matters to take care of and needed to leave quickly. Chun simply reminded her to be careful. The young man who had rushed in earlier approached him enthusiastically, praising his hero saving the beauty moment and introducing himself as Mukong. When Chen heard the name, he realized fate had saved him some trouble. Mukong was exactly the person he had arranged to meet. Mukong was surprised and called it destiny, then excitedly struck a pose and said, "Sky King covers Earth Tiger." Chun responded by calling him a fool. Mukong froze, completely thrown off. A series of notifications immediately appeared in Chen's mind: dumbfounded +1, dazed +1, awkwardness +1. Chen cleared his throat and tried to ease the moment by responding with another nonsense phrase, saying he meant it as a joke to lighten the mood. He even mimicked the silly pose to reduce Mu Kang's embarrassment. Mu Kang burst out laughing, calling Chen unbelievable, and then motioned for him to follow. They moved into a secluded area where Mu Kang opened a box filled with firearms. He explained that they were Russian-made, durable and reliable, but warned that they didn't come with many bullets, so Chun would need to use them wisely. Since Chun seemed skilled and interesting, Mu Kang offered him a friendship price, saying it was his way of forming a connection. Chun accepted and thanked him. Mu Kang added that Chen's movements suggested he was an expert, and if there were no further questions, they could finalize the deal. But before he could finish, Chun casually asked whether the gun came with a silencer, whether there was a warranty card, and if Mu Kang could throw in an extra box of bullets. Mu Kang was speechless. Internally, he wondered if Chun even understood what a friendship price meant. Items like these usually sparked bidding wars on the black market, often selling for twice the cost, and this guy was asking for warranties and freebies as if he were buying home appliances. Mu Kang felt himself grow more and more frustrated, thinking Chun might as well just rob him. A new notification flickered through Chen's mind, noting the spike in negative emotions: shock +1, heartache +1, speechless +1. Seeing Mu Kang's face twist in pain, Chun quickly told him not to worry about it. If the extras weren't possible, he said they could forget it. He added that they would just follow the price already agreed on, and that he would transfer the money immediately. Inwardly, Chun marked the deal as complete. He now had supplies, weapons, and the beginnings of a fortress. Only one final piece remained. Later that night, inside an extravagant hotel suite, a woman in a red dress stood by the window, bathed in moonlight. When she turned, Chun wrapped an arm around her and complained that she had taken too long and kept him waiting on sore legs. Lu Wenqing asked whether the thing he mentioned was truly risk-free. Chun reassured her sweetly, claiming it was only a formality, and that he loved her too much to ever scam her. In her mind, however, Lu dismissed any notion of danger. She told herself that this pathetic simp nearly sold his own blood once just to buy her a handbag. He was far too busy worshipping her to dare deceive her. Later, at Boss Zhang's office, Zhang Yang praised her decisiveness and even complimented her handwriting as she signed the contract. She handed the documents back without a second thought. Zhang, on the other hand, was practically smirking inside. He thought she genuinely believed she was only acting as a guarantor, when in truth, the moment she signed, the debt legally became hers. And when she inevitably failed to repay it, he had other methods in mind for collecting, methods he was already imagining with satisfaction. Lu Wenqing continued watching him smugly, unaware of the trap she'd walked into. Meanwhile, Chun silently observed everything, thinking to himself that she was signing her own indenture contract. Her greed, foolishness, and self-confidence would end up paying off the remainder of his safe house's construction costs perfectly. Everything had gone smoother than he expected, and he silently thanked her. A short while later, the contractor proudly showed Chun the completed safe house. He assured Chun that every material used met the highest military standards: heat insulation, soundproofing, explosion-proofing, drill-proofing, even the structural strength to withstand multiple small-scale nuclear shockwaves. Chun acknowledged the quality and thanked him. The contractor laughed heartily and told Chun to call him whenever he needed more work. Finally, inside the finished safe house, Chun took a moment to sit down and relax. Just then, a broadcast echoed from his screen. Affected by unprecedented super-strong solar flare activity, the entire globe will experience continuous extreme high-temperature weather. The news report continued, warning that temperatures across many regions were expected to break historical records and urging all citizens to take immediate protective measures. Chun listened quietly, then picked up the gun lying beside him. He remarked to himself that the moment had finally arrived. Outside his reinforced walls, the world was beginning to ignite, heat waves surging, flames blooming across cities, and panic spreading everywhere. He walked to the window and watched as the world outside descended into burning chaos. He stood watching the world burn, secure and ready for whatever came next. The news anchor continued reporting that a super-strong solar flare had erupted, causing violent disturbances in Earth's ionosphere. Extreme high-temperature phenomena were already appearing across the globe, with daytime highs expected to reach as much as 45 degrees Celsius. Citizens were advised to take heatstroke precautions and avoid going outside at noon unless absolutely necessary. Chun listened without surprise. He already knew this was coming. In his mind, he noted that the temperature had begun to rise, but this was only the beginning. Compared to his past life, It even felt like things were escalating faster and more brutally this time. Outside, panic spread among ordinary people. Everyone wanted to hide indoors, yet even inside their homes, the heat was suffocating and unbearable. Someone complained that it was already unbearably hot early in the morning and wondered how long such extreme temperatures would last. Soon, a street loudspeaker crackled to life. A vendor loudly warned his neighbors that the weather was deadly and claimed he had heard the temperature would keep rising next week. He shouted about supply shortages, saying water and electricity would soon become scarce, and urged everyone to stock up immediately or risk having nothing to drink later. He even claimed this was his final batch of goods. Yet inwardly, the man was delighted. To him, the heat wave was practically money knocking at his door, and he would be a fool not to seize the opportunity to get rich. Nearby, a woman complained that his melons were priced far too high and asked if he could sell them cheaper. Another woman examined the melons, which looked plump and juicy. Seeing them, the vendor suddenly became overly enthusiastic, praising their beauty and eagerly approaching them. He boasted about how sweet the melons were and offered to cut one open for a taste. If they bought two, he promised a discount and even threw in a free pack of tissues. The women listened cautiously, growing increasingly uncomfortable as the man leaned in closer and became overly familiar. He pushed his melons toward them, even hinting that if the nights stayed hot, they could come by his place to cool off. Nervous, one of the women backed away and quickly said they would just buy one. But the vendor refused to give up, stepping closer again and urging them to buy more and stock up, insisting that with weather like this, no one could guarantee there would be anything left to sell tomorrow. A few more people soon gathered around the stall. Among them was an elderly man who politely asked whether the boss could sell the water a little cheaper. The moment the vendor saw him, his expression turned ugly. He snapped that his was a small business and that there would be absolutely no bargaining, clearly eager to chase the old man away. Chun stood nearby, watching the scene unfold, and immediately recognized the man. He inwardly clicked his tongue, realizing it was Lee Dafu. Memories from his past life surfaced instantly. This man had once made his life miserable. Back then, Lee Dafu had loved shouting in public, accusing him of stealing and calling people over to watch, even when Chun had only tried to pick up something that had fallen and return it. Chun remembered desperately trying to explain that he hadn't stolen anything, that he had only seen the item on the ground and wanted to put it back. But Lee Dafu had refused to listen, sneering that no one would be that kind-hearted. He had pointed at Chen's shabby clothes and insisted that someone like him couldn't have clean hands, threatening to call the police if he didn't pay up. The surrounding crowd had joined in, looking at Chun with disdain. Some had muttered that someone so young shouldn't be stealing, while others claimed his silence proved his guilt. Even as Chun insisted he hadn't taken anything, no one believed him. Every ounce of humiliation from that day came flooding back. Now, standing here again, Chen's gaze fell on a bag of potato chips marked with a manager's recommendation tag. He picked it up, thinking he might as well eat some. Then, with deliberate calm, he asked Lee Dafu whether the chips were made of gold or capable of preventing heatstroke, questioning why they were being sold at such an outrageous price. Lee Dafu turned sharply to glare at him. At the same time, a notification appeared in Chen's mind, noting a surge of negative emotion. Disdain +3. The vendor immediately snatched the chips back and shouted at Chun to get lost if he couldn't afford them, demanding to know whether he could compensate them if he damaged the goods. Another notification followed, irritation +6. Chun merely smiled faintly and remarked that Lee Dafu was holding on to so many treasures that he wondered whether the man could even sleep at night, suggesting he should be careful. After all, things had a way of getting stolen. Boss Lee suddenly felt as if he'd been cursed and flew into a rage, demanding to know who Chun was trying to hex. He threatened to beat him up, sneering that the heat must have fried his brain. Chun, however, calmly told him to settle down and casually asked whether he'd been suffering lately from insomnia, vivid dreams, weakness, and night sweats. That question caught Boss Lee off guard. He muttered that he did have some of those symptoms and even wondered if there might be a feng shui issue with his warehouse. Chun hushed him confidently, saying he'd known it all along and pointing out that Boss Lee's yin-tang looked dark. He explained that it was a typical case of deficiency. That was enough to completely set Boss Lee off. He cursed Chun back, shouting that Chun and his entire family were the ones with deficiencies and swung a fist at him. Chun easily dodged the punch. He casually picked up a lollipop, popped it into his mouth, and advised Boss Lee to take better care of his health. He warned that excessive anger damaged the body, especially someone in Boss Lee's condition. As he spoke, he tossed a few coins onto the ground and coldly remarked that if Boss Lee didn't pay attention, he might die young. He then turned away, savoring the sweetness of the lollipop, leaving Boss Lee staring at the money on the ground. A notification immediately rang out in Chen's mind, detected strong negative emotion, anger +20. As night fell, a stray cat passed through the streets with something clutched in its mouth. Inside his safe house, Chen gazed at the night sky and reflected on his past life, remembering how he had swallowed his anger and allowed others to trample him. This time, he intended to reclaim everything with interest. He then recalled that he had unlocked spatial expansion earlier, and the emotions Lee Dafu had just provided were perfectly sufficient to use it. A notification followed, consumed negative emotion, 20. Storage space expanded to 200 cubic meters. An unseen aura enveloped Chun, and for a brief moment, it felt as though his hand brushed against a doorway leading into another dimension. When dawn arrived, the heat was already overwhelming. Even sparrows struggled under the rising temperature. On the street below, Boss Lee returned to his stall and froze. Wherever he looked, there was only one thing waiting for him: nothing. Stunned, he shouted in disbelief, demanding to know where all his goods had gone and who could have done this. From the safety of his fortified home, Chun calmly sipped his soda as another notification appeared: negative emotion plus 66. The drink tasted great, but he knew this was only the beginning. Much more was yet to come. Boss Lee completely lost it. He ran around his store in a panic, shouting and cursing, demanding to know who had stolen his goods. He collapsed to the ground, almost crying, unable to accept what had happened. To him, this was worse than the apocalypse itself. The end of the world didn't scare him nearly as much as losing all his stock overnight. The people nearby started whispering among themselves. One person wondered aloud whether Boss Lee had staged everything himself just to jack up prices. Another worried about how they were supposed to survive if even the supermarket was empty. An old woman claimed she had seen a dark shadow drifting through the area last night, and someone else immediately questioned her, asking if she was sure. Boss Lee, however, refused to believe any of it. He shouted that it was impossible, that there was no such thing as ghosts. But even as he yelled, notifications silently stacked up in Chen's mind. Strong negative emotion detected. Anger plus 12, fear plus 3, suspicion plus 4. Chan stood nearby, watching everything unfold like a spectator at a show. He casually ate his snacks, finding that snacks tasted especially good when paired with other people's suffering. With a faint smile, he commented to himself that Lee Dafu's emotional output was impressively stable. As he reached into the bag again, he deliberately let the packaging show. The moment Boss Lee saw it, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. He screamed that those were his goods and charged forward like a madman. Chun calmly raised the bag and asked whether the chips were made of gold or somehow able to prevent heatstroke, since they were being sold at such an outrageous price. Boss Lee immediately recognized him and roared in fury. Chun continued casually, asking if Boss Lee could really sleep peacefully while hoarding so many treasures, warning him to be careful or thieves might target him. Boss Lee finally snapped, grabbing at Chan and demanding to know where he got the chips, accusing him of theft while shaking with rage. Chun took a step back, pretending to be startled, and calmly reminded him that accusations required evidence. He even pointed out how strange it was that the entire supermarket was empty now, not even a single snack left behind. Then, with an almost innocent tone, he offered the half-eaten bag in his hand, asking if Boss Lee would like it. Boss Lee stood there trembling, his face pale with fury and disbelief, completely at a loss for words. Boss Lee exploded in anger, shouting that Chun had cursed him and that now all his goods were gone. He accused Chun of being the thief and demanded an explanation. In his mind, even if Chun hadn't actually stolen anything, he could still squeeze something out of him to make up for the loss. At the very least, he could use him as a scapegoat. Another notification quietly appeared in Chen's vision. Strong negative emotion detected. Anger plus 18. Chun, however, remained calm. He casually pointed out that other stores also sold the same chips and asked why Boss Lee was so sure it had to be him. He reminded everyone that the shelves were already empty when he arrived. If anyone wanted proof, they could check the surveillance or search his place. He even added that if they found any of Boss Lee's goods there, he would compensate tenfold. That sentence immediately made the surrounding onlookers murmur. Some pointed out that other shops also sold the same brand. Others recalled that Boss Lee had been complaining about prices only the day before. The atmosphere quickly shifted. Boss Lee felt his scalp tingle. Something wasn't right. How had this kid suddenly turned the situation around so cleanly? Before he could think further, Chun calmly added that if nothing was found, then the generator sitting behind the shop would belong to him as compensation. Furious and cornered, Boss Lee agreed on the spot, convinced that Chun was bluffing. He grabbed Chun and dragged him along, declaring that once the truth came out, he would see how smug Chun still felt. When they reached Chen's residence, the crowd gasped. The moment the door opened, they were greeted by a scene completely beyond expectations. The interior looked nothing like a normal home. Everything was neat, fortified, and shockingly well stocked. Expensive equipment lined the walls, sealed supplies were stacked neatly, and even large energy units were visible. Whispers broke out immediately. So he was hiding this much wealth? When did he become this rich? This looks like a fortress. Even Boss Lee froze in place. His eyes widened as he stared at the interior, disbelief washing over his face. This wasn't a home, it was a bunker. Chun turned to him calmly and asked if he was done searching, even offering to let him pry up the floorboards if he wished. Boss Lee's confidence completely collapsed. His face turned pale, and he quickly waved his hands, saying there was no need. He mumbled something about checking other places and tried to leave. But before he could escape, Chun reached out and grabbed his arm, stopping him cold. With a faint smile, Chun reminded him about the agreement they had just made, that if nothing was found, the generator would belong to him. Boss Lee stiffened. His face twisted as he tried to backpedal, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and asking whether things really needed to be taken this far. But the crowd was already watching, and Chen's calm gaze made it clear, this time, there would be no backing out. Chun calmly asked him why he hadn't thought about taking a step back when he was framing others before. At that moment, another notification popped up in Chen's mind. Strong negative emotion detected. Impatience +8. The onlookers began whispering among themselves. Some muttered that a man who couldn't even keep his word deserved what he got. Others scoffed, saying it served him right. Hearing those voices, Lee Dafu's face twisted with rage. He snapped back, accusing Chun of going too far and shouting that he was giving him face already. Then, without warning, he swung his fist toward Chun. Chun easily blocked the attack and twisted the man's arm in one clean motion. A sharp cry rang out as Lee Dafu dropped to the ground, clutching his hand in agony. A new notification appeared. Strong negative emotion detected. Pain +73. Gritting his teeth, Lee Dafu finally gave in, shouting that he would move the generator right away and begging Chun to stop. Chun calmly reminded him to hurry, pointing out that once the temperature rose further, going outside would become impossible. He added coolly that, without a generator, surviving the coming days would be difficult. Another wave of emotional data poured in. Humiliation +30, pain +86, fear +101. Chun watched without expression, knowing everything was unfolding exactly as planned. Just as things settled, his phone rang again. It was Lu Wenjing. Her voice sounded anxious as she said that several unfamiliar men had been following her for the past few days. They looked like debt collectors, and she didn't understand why. Wasn't she just signing something before? Chin already knew the answer. He simply smiled faintly to himself, standing quietly as he listened. This too was part of the plan, and it was only just beginning. There is more to come. The bad girl demanded to know why people from the Dahai gang were looking for her and asked if Chun had lied to her. She sounded angry and suspicious. Chun replied calmly, telling her not to overthink it. He said he had done so much for her and poured his heart out, so how could he possibly lie? Hearing her doubt him made him sound hurt, at least on the surface. Inside, however, he was thinking that those Dahai gang idiots were even more impatient than he expected. He then asked her if the people following her knew where she lived and what exactly they had said. The bad girl told him they didn't know her address yet, and that she had taken side roads to shake them off. She warned him not to play tricks on her and demanded to know what was really going on. Chun reassured her, saying she was overthinking things and that she probably mistook someone else for them. As he spoke, he deliberately let her see the food and supplies around him. The moment she noticed them, her eyes widened in disbelief. She couldn't help asking how he still had so much. Chin didn't explain. He wanted her to see it for herself. He casually told her that he had more than just that. Inside, the bad girl was shocked. With the heat growing worse by the day and supplies becoming scarce, only the rich could afford this kind of food. She started wondering where he had gotten it all. Could it be that he had really struck it big? Chun calmly took a sip of his drink and commented on how good it tasted in this weather. Then he casually ate some premium food right in front of her. When she saw the salmon, her eyes lit up. She couldn't hide her desire and admitted she really wanted some. Chun asked gently whether she had enough to eat where she was staying. She replied that she was scared living alone, saying she constantly felt like someone was watching her. Her voice sounded weak and pitiful, but deep down she was carefully calculating her next move. She then suggested that she could stay with him for a few days, hinting that she could keep him company. Her tone was soft and tempting. Before he could respond, she ended the call. Chun lowered his phone slowly, a faint smile forming on his face. Hook, line, and sinker. Lu Wanjing, you really are too cheap. Chun called her back and told her that the weather was only going to get hotter. He reminded her that she had always said a girl shouldn't casually give out her address, acting all mysterious and refusing to let him visit. Now, though, he told her to send the address over. He said he would go pick her up later, once the temperature dropped a bit. The bad girl immediately changed her attitude. She said that times were different now, that the situation was special. Since he was her boyfriend, who else could she rely on if not him? She quickly sent over the address and told him to come get her. Chun told her to stay put and not wander around, reminding her to be good and wait for him. After hanging up, the bad girl smirked to herself. In her heart, she thought that a simp would always be a simp. Give him a bit of sweetness and he would come running, tail wagging. Meanwhile, Chin already understood everything perfectly. He thought about how she used to act all high and mighty, never letting him even step inside her community. Now, just for a bit of food, she was willingly handing over her address. The contrast almost made him laugh. He put his phone down just as a knock sounded at the door. A woman's voice called out, asking if she could come in. It was Auntie Wong from next door. He opened the door slightly, and she immediately started complaining that her air conditioner had broken and that it was unbearably hot. She said the children couldn't stand it anymore and suggested they come inside for a while, saying neighbors should help each other. Chun looked at her calmly and reminded her how, when he was younger, he and his mother used to pick up plastic bottles downstairs. Back then, she had pointed at them, called them beggars, and even told the security guards to chase them away. The memory clearly made her uncomfortable. She hurriedly said that was a long time ago and accused him of being heartless for holding on to old grudges. Chun nodded lightly and replied that maybe he really was heartless, but at least he had air conditioning now. Then he shut the door in her face. Outside, Auntie Wong continued yelling insults, calling him heartless and even cursing his parents. But Chun didn't care anymore. A notification quietly appeared in his vision. Detected strong negative emotion, anger plus 18. Detected strong negative emotion, anger plus 20. Chun felt nothing but calm. He had long decided that he would only help those who deserved it. Everyone else could fend for themselves. After that, Chun calmly took out his phone, swapped the SIM card, and turned on his computer. He made a call, his tone casual as if discussing something trivial. He told the person on the other end that he knew where Lu Wenjing lived and had already sent the address over. He even added that she lived alone and would be easy to find. Once the call ended, Chun leaned back and looked out the window. The sky outside was still blazing hot, the air heavy and suffocating, yet he felt strangely comfortable. The heat didn't bother him anymore. In fact, compared to the calm spreading through his chest, the outside world felt distant and insignificant. He let out a quiet breath and thought to himself that the real show was finally about to begin. The bad girl was looking in the mirror, admiring her own beauty and feeding her ego. She thought about how soon she'd be able to move into Chun Jiao's air-conditioned room. She reminisced about the kind of life he would give her and thought that only a carefree life like that was worthy of her. She kept daydreaming, completely enjoying herself. Later, she lit one up and continued checking out her belongings. Suddenly, loud knocking started at the door. She went to open it, saying that they were early, while thinking to herself that he really was a qualified simp, always so eager. But the person standing there was not who she expected. And it wasn't just one person. There were several of them. She immediately asked why they were here and how they knew where she lived. Before she could react, one of the men pushed her aside and said that the money owed to the Dahai gang was due today. She quickly replied that the money was borrowed by Qin Jiao and that he was the one who tricked her into signing, telling them to go find him instead. The man calmly pulled out the contract and said it was signed clearly in black and white, and whoever signed it had to pay. No excuses. At that moment, she finally understood. The man she once thought was a brainless simp had already woken up and started using his head. The goon then told the others to search the place and take anything valuable. As they began rummaging through her things, she tried to stop them, but they shoved her aside. She cried out that she was calling Qin Jiao and that he would be here soon. One of the men ignored her and casually sat down on the couch, looking around at her jewelry. Seeing them touch her things made her panic. She didn't want to lose any of it. The goon looked over the items and said that this little amount wasn't even enough to cover the interest. He added that his brothers had come all this way in the heat and couldn't leave empty-handed. She desperately tried to stop them again, saying the money was with Chen Jiao, not her. The goon smirks as the woman says that he also has a lot of supplies and is coming to pick her up soon. She tells them to wait for him and then ask him for the money. But when she tries to call, all she hears is a cold, automated voice saying that the number she dialed is currently unavailable. She freezes for a moment, unable to believe what's happening. She tries again, panic rising, only to hear the same message again. No matter how many times she calls, no one answers. Her breathing grows heavy, sweat forming on her face as her expression slowly darkens. She wonders how this could be happening. She insists that he must be busy and didn't hear the phone, saying she'll call again right away. But the goon snatches the phone away and tells her she's really stupid. He says she actually believed that guy would pay for her and that it's obvious he sold her out. He adds that the man never planned to pay anything back from the start. At that moment, the bad girl finally realizes the truth. The one she thought was a fool was never a fool at all. This time, she was the one being played. She weakly asks what he's talking about. The goon tells her to shut up and stop struggling. She cries and tells them to let her go, saying they should go find Chen Jiao instead, because he's the one with the money and supplies. But the goon ignores her and drags her away. No matter how much she screams, no one comes to help her. This time, there's no one left to save her. All the bad things she once did to others are finally coming back to her. Meanwhile, Chen Jiao is calmly enjoying his drinks, while his phone keeps ringing beside him. He doesn't bother answering. In his mind, he thinks that Lu Wanjing should get a proper taste of the apocalypse. As night falls and people hide indoors to escape the heat, the goon drags the crying woman away. He asks her again what good things Chen Jiao has at his place. She tells him he has air conditioning, cold drinks, and plenty of food. She says that's where everything is, and that she really has nothing left. Hearing this, the goon's eyes light up. He thinks to himself that this sounds like a big catch. Then he tells the others it's time to go. As they leave, the woman glares in rage and thinks about Chen Jiao, cursing him in her heart and wishing him a horrible death. She is about to begin her own revenge plot. In the night, a lot of people were moving around really hurriedly with a lot of weapons in their hands. A voice says, right this way, that little beast Chen Jiao lives right here. At his home, the AC is on 24 hours a day and he has plenty to eat and drink. Another says that he is also extremely stingy and won't even share a sip of water with them. The auntie who previously came for that AC is really angry and frustrated with him and now wants to get back at him with these mafia boys. The mafia boys are also happy as they follow her. The leader of them says that old hag, you led the way well. Once they get the stuff, there will be plenty of benefits for her, so she can rest assured about the service she is doing. The hag says, oh my, thank you, Brother Zeng. He is truly generous. No wonder he could become a big boss. He is way too amazing, and no one can be above him. As she is saying this, in her mind she thinks about how that Chen guy is going to get it really bad. She feels extremely happy and is even praying for it to happen. She imagines Chen crying and begging, saying that big brother, spare his life. He admits Auntie Wang was wrong and says that from now on, her home is his home and she can live wherever she wants. Auntie Wang, thinking about all of this, sneers inwardly and thinks that she wants to see how arrogant he can be this time. They keep moving forward toward a road. Zong says this kid definitely has something going on. Even from outside, they can see the way the place is built is extremely crazy. It almost feels like this guy knows the future. One of the goons gets really excited and says, Brother Zong, watch him kick the door down. He promises Zong is going to enjoy it and tells everyone to just watch. However, as he rushes forward in excitement, he steps on a spot that suddenly triggers a trap. He gets zapped really hard, as if Zeus himself struck him with lightning. While being electrocuted, he cries out in pain, yelling out over and over again. Zong, standing behind him, is completely surprised. He has no idea what the hell is happening and wonders if this guy is an idiot. The others rush over to him, and one of them says this trash cramped up for no reason and asks if he is stupid. But the moment they touch him, they also get zapped back as the electricity transfers into their bodies. Now they all feel the same thing he felt earlier. Now they finally understand why this guy cramped up, because they are also crying and shouting for help. They scream and beg, saying help me, help me. The zap of Zeus is just way too powerful. Zong, the auntie, and the others are now really scared. They have no idea what this even is. The auntie was hoping to see Chun crying and begging, but instead all she gets to see is these goons crying miserably. And this isn't even the end. An announcement and alarms start ringing all around them. Every one of them is completely dumbfounded, and it's like their dumbfounded levels are showing +2, +2, +3, and one guy is even at +5. Then the announcement plays, and a voice says that good luck comes, wishing everyone good luck. Good luck brings joy and love. The announcement continues while everyone is still getting zapped. It says that good luck comes with good luck welcoming, good luck thriving, and reaching the 4 C's. It repeats again and again as a chant. The electricity keeps rising as this announcement, prayer, and poem keeps getting sung. The guys keep crying and yelling about electricity. At this moment, Zong finally understands what's going on and immediately steps back. He now knows why this craziness is happening. Suddenly, a notification appears showing detected intense negative emotion shock +45, detected intense negative emotion panic +36, and detected intense negative emotion speechlessness +22. Chun is comfortably enjoying his cozy environment, watching all of this unfold on a screen. He casually says that their luck really isn't bad, since they managed to step right onto the protective electric grid with one foot. Zong immediately shouts back and tells Chun to stop talking nonsense. He says that paying back debts is a matter of principle, and if Chun returns the money, they'll call it even. He has already recognized Chen's voice. Then the auntie chimes in and agrees, saying that Chun has money to renovate but no money to pay his debts, and she questions how his parents even raised him. The hag still can't calm down at all and mutters that this one needs some special electricity. Chan, meanwhile, is leisurely eating his ice cream, watching everything while resting his foot on the table near the keyboard. He calmly tells brother Zhang that the market price of his apartment is 4 million, which is more than enough to offset the 3.5 million debt. Then he continues through the speaker, saying that as for Lu Wenqing's debt, they should go find her instead, because it has nothing to do with him. After hearing this, Zhang is extremely furious. In his mind, he thinks that right now supplies are king and everything else is nonsense. At the same time, Chen's voice comes through, and he says brother Zhang should understand that a wise man submits to circumstances. He says that while he is in a good mood, they should part on good terms. He warns that if they keep looking for trouble, he won't be this polite anymore. After saying that, he presses the red button. The electricity instantly increases, and the goons start crying and screaming. They shout that it hurts, that they can't hold on anymore, and beg their boss for help. They are clearly suffering badly. Then the notification pops up, saying detected intense negative emotion pain plus 63, and detected intense negative emotion despair plus 77. Zhang is truly scared now. He has no idea what kind of thing he has run into, so he chooses to retreat. While running away, he shouts that Chun Xiao should just wait because the Dehai gang won't let him off, even though they are fleeing like cowards. Another notification appears, saying detected intense negative emotion anger plus 78. As the gang escapes, the auntie becomes the next target. She is terrified and left all alone, standing there and staring at the apartment. The surroundings turn red as the environment grows more intense, and she has no idea what to do next. Her dream of seeing Chun Xiao beg and cry remains just a dream. As the temperature rises to 52 degrees Celsius, the whole area becomes deserted. No one wants to go outside anymore. For Chun, however, everything inside is cool and refreshing. He is enjoying life even more than before and casually watches TV. On the screen, the news anchor says that recently, cases of death from heat stroke have appeared in many places, and citizens are advised to avoid going out as much as possible. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with notifications. When Chun checks it, he sees Auntie Wang going crazy in the comments, accusing him of not being human and saying that he has food, drinks, and AC while just watching the elderly and children die from the heat. Another comment from a shopkeeper boss calls him selfish and says he isn't fit to be a neighbor. Another says that in extraordinary times, resources must be shared, otherwise he is a murderer. Another claims they are about to die from the heat and asks if he has no shame. Yet another demands that Chun Xiao come out and give everyone an explanation. Chun calmly drinks his cold beverage and keeps swiping through the notifications. Then another system notification appears, saying detected intense negative emotion jealousy plus 99, detected intense negative emotion anger plus 101, and total negative emotion value has exceeded 1,000 and rewards are being calculated. Looking at this, maybe Chun could start thinking after getting these rewards about how he could even post a proposal in the group chat. He could suggest that anyone who teaches the old hag lady a lesson and that evil supermarket guy would get food and water for 2 days. It would be the same strategy they are trying to use now, but he believes it would work extremely well. Best of all, it would be fair punishment. If he really expands on this, he could control everyone. After that, maybe he could even share a little. In that case, sharing would actually be a great thing. Standing in front of his supplies, he takes out his phone and snaps quite a lot of pictures of all the crazy and amazing items piled up there. Then he posts them in the group chat and says that yes, his stockpile is indeed quite large, and if anyone wants some, they can sign up. Immediately, a lady replies and says she is signing up and begs him to share a little. The hag also speaks up and says little Chun should send some food over to Auntie because her legs aren't good. The shopkeeper boss demands that Chun bring him 2 cases of water first. Someone else quickly adds a sign up +1. But things aren't going to be that easy. Chun replies and says that everyone should understand he isn't running a charity. If they want anything, they need to exchange something of equal value. Otherwise, there's no deal, and he refuses freeloaders. As soon as this message appears, the shopkeeper boss explodes and calls Chun a little brat, saying he's selfish and should hurry up and share the supplies if he still wants to be considered a good neighbor. The hag also jumps in, telling everyone to look at Chen's true colors and accusing him of refusing to save people who are dying. She curses him, saying he'll get his karma sooner or later and that she wants to see it happen. Another guy threatens Chun, saying that if they starve to death, he shouldn't think he'll have it easy either. Chun doesn't care at all. He simply puts his phone aside, completely unimpressed. He can't believe how useless these people are. Just then, a new notification appears, saying negative emotion value has reached 3,000. It announces a skill upgrade called Special Cut Beginner Level. The effect is described as creating a microscopic rift in the air that cuts any object it touches within a 3-meter range. Chun finds this extremely interesting. He starts thinking more deeply about this so-called special cut. Spotting an apple nearby, he immediately tries it out. In an instant, The apple is sliced cleanly in half without any effort at all. The effect is crazy. Chin says this is getting interesting. He never thought he would get something this powerful, but it's absolutely cool. He realizes he could even use it against those mafia guys if they keep hounding him too much. Outside, only a few cars are still running. Then a woman named Lu steps out of one of them. She's wearing a really flashy and nice dress, but appearances can be deceiving. She's the kind of bad woman people should stay away from, no matter how good she looks. Looking at her too much might even make someone like her more, which is dangerous. Unless someone thinks they can fix her, it's better not to get involved at all. There's also another person in the car. He's still thinking about ways to get back at Chun. He steps out as well and asks little Zong if the Chun Xiao he mentioned lives here. Zong says yes, it's in the innermost building. As he reports this to his boss, the boss turns to Lu and asks if Chun Xiao used to be her man. He says that he's leading a team to raid Chin Xiao's home and asks if she'll feel heartache over it. After hearing this, Lu looks shocked at first, then immediately reassures him. She says that right now, her heart only has him in it and there's no space for anyone else. She tells him he's the best and the only one she could have ever wanted. She also adds that as for Chun Xiao, he's nothing but a useless piece of trash. But deep down, she's thinking to herself that tonight is Chun Xiao's end. She wants him completely finished today. She even feels ready to cling to this man harder and push him to act faster, just to make sure Chun Xiao is dealt with. As they move forward together, the shopkeeper suddenly runs over and eagerly asks if Big Brother is here for Chun Xiao. He explains that they're homeowners in this complex and says they're willing to help teach Chun Xiao a lesson. Another man behind him quickly agrees and says they know the area well. He offers to help block Chun Xiao's escape route if he tries to run. The boss nods and says that if they help catch Chun Xiao, he'll share some of the supplies from Chun Xiao's room with them. The shopkeeper immediately gets even more excited and thanks him enthusiastically. He urges the boss to follow him, saying they know a shortcut. He's extremely eager and wants Chun Xiao to get what he deserves as soon as possible, helping in every way he can. Around them, other people also start trying to grab whatever they can. Anyone who tries to stop them gets beaten back. No one wants to share anymore. Everyone just wants everything for themselves. As the mafia boss and the shopkeeper move through the area, the shopkeeper suddenly points ahead and nervously says that this is his home and that they're on the same side. The boss coldly replies that it doesn't matter. He says that from now on, the whole building belongs to Lu. The hag immediately explodes in anger and says they can't do this, insisting they never provoked them. She can't believe that she only wanted all of this to happen to Chen Xiao, not to herself. But these are mafia guys, and they don't care at all. They have power and people backing them, so they simply take whatever they want. The shopkeeper finally panics and collapses into regret. He admits that he was wrong and that he shouldn't have been greedy for those scraps. Now everything is gone, and even his way to survive has disappeared. He sees the hag getting beaten by the goons, and the others are also lying helpless on the ground. He keeps shouting that he was truly blind and wonders how he could ever trust a bunch of beasts like them. At this point, there's nothing that can be done. The mafia guys gather together with their swords, their boss standing at the front, and that bad girl right beside him. The bad girl has already gotten what she wanted, and now she only wants revenge. As they all stare at the building from outside, something suddenly crashes down. From inside, Chun Xiao throws a couch straight onto the ground below. While casually enjoying his meal, he looks down and asks if everyone is looking for him. He looks like he's having a great time. The boss sneers and says that death is already imminent, yet Chun is still putting on a show. He tells Chun to hand over the supplies, and he'll at least leave his body intact. The bad girl stands beside him, watching closely to see what happens next. Chun remains calm. He slowly wipes his mouth with a cloth and says that didn't their parents teach them basic manners. He says it's extremely rude to disturb someone while they're eating and asks if these goons can't even manage something that simple. That completely sets the boss off. He curses and orders everyone to beat Chun as much as they want. The goons rush forward all at once, but Chun easily dodges the punches while still holding his plate. His balance is ridiculously good. One guy lunges at him, and Chun grabs his head and slams it straight into the ground. Another man charges in with a huge weapon, swinging it wildly. Chun dodges the swing and kicks him hard, leaving the guy wondering what just happened. Then another attacker comes from behind with an axe and tries to strike Chun Xiao. Chun thinks to himself if they're really forcing him to use spatial segmentation now. He steadies himself and prepares. Suddenly, a bottle flies forward toward the boss and the bad girl. They look at it in confusion, and in the next moment, thick smoke fills the area. Turns out to be a smoke grenade. The boss starts coughing and shouting that it's tear gas. He yells that this kid has a helper and orders everyone to retreat immediately. The group panics and scrambles around. Even Chun Xiao looks a bit confused confused by this sudden development. In the chaos, the axe guy misses his strike and drops his weapon onto the ground. Then another voice speaks up, saying that the trouble Chen stirred up isn't small at all. He adds that Chen's skills are actually pretty impressive. Chen looks toward him and says he only wants to know one thing, asking why he's here. The man replies that it's about guns. He asks if Chen still wants them and says he has good goods available. The guy can't believe Chen Xiao is drinking ice water at a time like this. He comments that Chen is really living a comfortable life. Chen Xiao casually responds and says they should talk first. He asks why the guy is here, pointing out that his territory isn't on this side. The guy explains and says Lu Haifeng has been messing with his business lately, and he's been watching him for days. As he grabs the chilled water, he still can't quite believe it. He continues saying that he saw Lu heading this way, so he followed him to take a look. He didn't expect Lu was actually coming for Chun. He adds that supplies have been scarce for a long time, yet Chun has such a big stockpile, and that kind of thing can't be done without special channels. Chen asks what exactly he's trying to say. The guy quickly clarifies that he's not trying to pry. He says Lu Haifeng has recently stockpiled a large amount of purified water, and he wants to cooperate with Chun to get that water. He explains that he's very familiar with the layout of Lu's underground business. Chun would find a way to get the water, then they would store it here first, and after that he would handle selling it. Chun thinks about it and realizes that as the temperature keeps rising, water really is hard currency now. He agrees that cooperation is fine, but says the profit split will be 9-1, with him taking 9 and the other guy taking 1. The guy reacts immediately and complains that a 9-1 split is basically robbery. At the same time, a notification pops up saying detected strong negative emotion shock plus 40. Chun calmly replies that if he's not willing, then there's nothing to talk about. The guy suddenly panics and quickly softens his stance. He suggests an 8-2 split instead and asks if that's acceptable, saying he still needs to eat too. In his mind, he thinks this guy is too calm and must have some kind of trump card. He knows that aside from Chun, he can't find anyone more suitable. Chun thinks for a moment and then agrees that 8-2 works. However, he adds one more condition. He says that in the future, if the guy gets new goods, Chun gets first pick, and the rest can be sold afterward. The guy sighs and admits defeat, saying fine, Chun wins. Chun confirms the deal and says the first step is to figure out the stronghold structure and personnel distribution. Soon after, they reach a building nearby. From above, they look down, and the guy explains that this is Lu Haifeng's stronghold. He says the trading area is in the front, and people who are short on water either spend money to buy it or exchange other things for it. Many people are walking around with guns, clearly acting as security. There are also quite a few women providing entertainment and services. The guy further explains that some of the girls were captured specifically to serve the upper management. One of those girls turns out to be the same bad girl who cheated Chin earlier and even tried to bring a bunch of mafia guys to his home. The guy then adds that the water storage area is in the back, though he still hasn't figured out the exact location yet. Chun says he'll sneak in and take a look himself. He tells the guy that once he sees the signal, he should create chaos on the perimeter to draw away the main force. The guy is stunned and asks if Chun is really going in alone. He questions how Chun plans to move all that water by himself. Chun calmly replies that he has his ways. He moves ahead, slipping into the shadows. Soon, a guard steps out and stops him, saying he looks unfamiliar and asking where his ID is. Chun immediately pulls out a card-like item and says Boss Lu sent him to count the water stock. The guard scoffs and says counting water stock sounds like a joke, asking if Chun thinks he's trying to trick a child. A notification pops up showing detected negative emotion mockery plus 5. Chun calmly places his hand on the guard's shoulder. In his mind, he thinks that before, he only used special cut on apples, but today he'll cut something different. He instantly activates the skill. The guard's eyes widen in shock, but he doesn't even get a chance to react before he's taken out. A notification appears saying detected strong negative emotion horror plus 50 and pain plus 50. As the guard collapses, another man nearby starts firing. Chun dodges the shots and sends a special cut straight at the shooter, taking him down as well. Another notification pops up, showing detected strong negative emotion fear plus 100 and despair plus 100. Gunshots echo through the area, and more guards rush over, shouting that someone has sneaked in and telling each other to move fast. Heavy weapons come out, and one guy is even carrying a rocket launcher. Chun quickly hides in a corner. As the guards rush past in different directions, he thinks he's safe for the moment. Suddenly, a hand grabs him from behind. Chun Xiao stiffens and realizes someone has caught him. When he looks back, he sees guards still swarming the area, searching everywhere. But the hand holding him belongs to a woman. She quietly tells him to stay quiet. She pulls him into a secluded spot. Once they're hidden, Chun asks why she's here. The woman says she was captured and asks if he was captured too. Chun doesn't answer directly. Instead, he asks if she knows where the water stockpile is. The lady says that they made her do cleaning work, and during that time she already figured out the layout. She tells Chun she can take him there. She looks around carefully, and suddenly a bucket falls in front of several soldiers. The soldiers immediately raise their guns and shout that someone is over there, telling everyone to move quickly. As they rush off, the path ahead becomes clear for the lady and Chen Xiao. The lady tells him to follow her and says there are no surveillance cameras along this route. They move as fast as they can toward their destination. When they get close, Chen Xiao tells her to find a place to hide and wait for him to come back out. The lady obediently does as she's told. Chen Xiao then starts preparing his attack. He gathers his aura and smashes the door open with a powerful punch, forcing his way inside. However, there are several soldiers waiting inside. One of them shouts, demanding to know who he is and how he got in, clearly furious. Chen Xiao doesn't hesitate. The moment the man locks eyes with him, Chun uses his cut attack and takes him down instantly. A notification appears saying detected strong negative emotion shock +20, fear +20, and pain +20. As the lady hides and looks ahead, she starts worrying. She thinks that Chen Xiao has been inside for a long time and wonders if nothing happened to him. She's really anxious and hopes everything is fine. But when she carefully looks inside, she's completely horrified. The place is full of destruction, and she can't believe what she's seeing. Everything looks wrecked. Suddenly, she notices a figure walking straight toward her. She panics, starts shouting, and is about to attack. Then she realizes it's Chun Xiao. Chun calmly tells her that it's handled and says they should go. He immediately turns and starts walking. Then he pulls out a gun, points it into the air, and fires a shot. The bullet explodes midair. The lady is shocked by this, but Chun starts laughing because he knows exactly what he did. Outside, the guy sees the signal and immediately understands. He says that Chun Xiao is really not bad and sounds genuinely impressed. He then starts his own plan of destruction. He throws several prepared bottles onto the ground, causing chaos and explosions everywhere. The entire area quickly catches fire. People start shouting about the fire and rush around trying to put it out. Just as planned, everyone is completely distracted. With the chaos spreading, Chun Xiao and the lady easily move deeper into other areas. The lady points the way and says that going through the alley will lead them to the outskirts of the south gate. As they keep moving forward, another woman suddenly rushes up from behind and calls out to Chen Xiao, begging him to take her along. It's the same bad woman. Chun immediately turns around and recognizes her. She pleads again, saying they used to be lovers, and asks him to take her for the sake of their past. She moves closer and promises that as long as he takes her away from this place, she won't hold it against him for using her name to take out loans. Chun coldly responds that she really doesn't understand the situation at all. Hearing this, the woman breaks down and starts crying. She says they force her every day, forcing her to serve old men. If she resists, they beat her, and if she tries to run, they catch her and drag her back. She says she has nowhere else to go and begs Chun to let her live with him, promising she'll do anything for him. Chun looks at her and reminds her of everything she did. He asks if she ever thought about today when she laughed at him for having no money, called him a simp, slept with old men behind his back, and even led Lu Haifeng straight to try and kill him. After hearing this, the bad girl suddenly becomes truly scared. In that moment, she finally realizes that what she has done is completely irredeemable. Chin thinks even deeper. In his mind, he recalls his past life and thinks that when she dismembered him back then, did she ever imagine that today would come? She had done far too many horrific things to him, and there is no way he can forgive her, no matter what she says now. He forces himself to keep his emotions in check because he can't allow history to repeat itself. Chun coldly swats her aside and says her acting is still just as lousy as ever. He then turns to the other woman and tells her they should go. The woman glances at the bad girl lying on the ground and silently hopes she learns from this and never becomes someone like her. At that moment, the bad girl suddenly snaps. She says that if Chun won't let her live, then no one will have it easy either. Immediately, a notification pops up saying detected intense negative emotion hatred +999 completely goes off the charts. Not long after, the boss of the area arrives. The first thing he asks is where the water is and whether his water is still safe, because that's the most important commodity he has right now. When they open the door and see the devastation inside, their hearts sink. There's nothing left at all. Then they notice words written on the wall. It clearly says that Boss Lu's water has been taken, and that next time, his life will be taken instead. Lu completely loses it. He shouts, demanding to know who did this. He's furious beyond belief. At that moment, the bad girl lying on the ground speaks up. She tells Boss Lu that it was Chun Xiao. She claims she tried to stop him, but Chun injured her and even insulted Lu, calling him trash. She clings to Lu, deliberately manipulating him further, saying that Chun claimed Lu was unworthy of possessing such resources. She keeps fanning the flames and adds that Chun wants to take all of them down. Hearing this, Lu's anger completely explodes. He orders everyone to follow him to the south gate and slaughter Chun Xiao. A massive commotion spreads throughout the entire area as the order is given. Chun and the other guy both notice the movement immediately. The guy comments on it, clearly understanding what's happening. As the entire force gathers behind their boss, Chun calmly mutters that Boss Lu moves fast. Still, he's already prepared. Then Lu points forward and gives the order, telling everyone to go get him. Everyone behind him charges forward, completely unable to control their anger. Their emotions are running wild, but this actually gives Chun the advantage. He stays calm and casually throws a torch onto the ground in front of them, instantly creating a huge wall of fire. The group is forced to stop, trapped behind the flames. The boss shouts that he will make sure Chun Xiao is finished. Right after that, a notification appears saying detected intense negative emotion hatred plus 999. Now there are two people whose hatred toward Chun has completely maxed out. Chun, however, stays relaxed. He says thanks to Boss Lu and mentions that he'll gladly take these emotion points to become even stronger and earn even more points in the future. Then another notification pops up. It says ding, negative emotion points have reached 3,000 and a new skill has been unlocked called Spatial Barrier. Inside the cozy shelter, the guy is throwing a small party. He laughs and says that what just happened was way too awesome and that old dog Lu is probably tearing his place apart right now. They sit there enjoying all kinds of insanely good dishes, partying without a care in the world, completely ignoring the deadly heat outside. The food looks so good that even just seeing it makes anyone want to join in. It's the kind of feast you want to dig into immediately, but sadly, unless there's real food in front of you, you can only imagine it. Still, the story goes on. After seeing all this, the lady sincerely thanks Chun Xiao. She says that if it weren't for him, she doesn't know how much longer she would have been trapped in that hellhole. She's extremely grateful and feels ready to do anything for him. She even offers to cook for him, saying she can make all kinds of food. She just wants to make him happy, because she knows guys like good home-cooked meals. Chan smiles and tells her they're old classmates, so there's no need to be so polite. He understands her gratitude, but he also wants her to relax, feel safe, and just take it easy here. The lady insists that it's not just politeness. She says he made her feel that there are still people in this world worth trusting. The guy then chimes in, saying that whole hero saving the beauty move was pretty impressive too. He jokingly asks Chun to give him the details, wanting to know exactly how he pulled it off. He can't believe Chun emptied an entire reservoir by himself and wonders if it's some kind of crazy magic. For a moment, the room falls into silence. Chun simply says that he has his ways and tells the guy he should focus on figuring out how to safely sell that much water instead. Hearing this, the guy freezes for a second, realizing Chun is right. Selling that amount of water without people noticing where it came from won't be easy at all. Chun then casually asks the lady about her life after junior high, mentioning that he never really heard any news about her after graduation. The lady hesitates, then explains that after graduation, her family ran into serious trouble. She says her parents went missing at the same time. As she talks, the memories overwhelm her, and she starts to panic again. Still, she pushes through, knowing Chun deserves to know the truth. But just as she's speaking, flames suddenly begin to rise around the area. They can't believe what they're seeing. When they look outside, the guy blurts out that the whole place is on fire. It's completely out of control. It's obvious that the people who lost the water either want it back or want everything destroyed. As the flames erupt, Chun, the lady, and the guy all stare outside. The fire is massive. In the chaos, they see people suffering. One person holding a child keeps screaming for help and begging someone to save the children. The guy suddenly realizes what's going on and says it's Lu Haifeng behind this, wondering if that bastard is really trying to burn everyone to death. The lady anxiously asks if they should do something. Chen, however, is lost in his own thoughts. In his mind, he realizes that Lu Haifeng is trying to use morality and innocent lives as a rope to bind him. He thinks it's pointless, because he's long past being that rotten do-gooder from his past life who would only get strangled to death for trying to save everyone. Outside, Lu Haifeng shouts for Chan Xiao to come out, threatening that if he doesn't, he'll burn the entire area to ashes and see how long Chen's so-called iron turtle shell can last. One of Lu's underlings flatters him, saying the boss is wise as always. He adds that if the fire keeps spreading, even if they don't burn to death, the smoke will finish them off. Lu enjoys the spectacle. As the fire grows bigger and bigger, his mood gets better and better. In his mind, he thinks that this is what happens when someone dares to fight him. The flames continue to rise, and nearby buildings start collapsing, which only fuels the fire even more. Inside the shelter, the guy starts panicking. He says they can't keep staying there like this. He warns that the heat will conduct inside, and even if they don't burn, they'll either be roasted alive or suffocate from lack of oxygen. Chin just smiles. He already has a plan. In his mind, he thinks that in a high-temperature apocalypse, there's no way he would be stupid enough not to install the highest-grade fire protection system in his safe house. He prepared for this long ago. He even has random old PCs still running, like ones with Windows XP or something. Then he calmly presses a red button. And normally, when someone presses a red button, things are about to go very wrong. But this time, it's the opposite. Outside, devices activate and begin spraying fire control grenades. They work like massive fire extinguishers, releasing thick suppressant smoke across the area. As the smoke spreads, the flames rapidly die down. The guy just stands there in disbelief, completely stunned by what he's seeing. He says, "Holy crap, it's nano-grade aerogel." He can't believe Chun could even get his hands on something like that. He says this stuff is straight-up military grade and asks if Chun robbed an army or something. The lady is also completely stunned by what she's seeing. As the fire starts dying down, the boss outside grows more and more frustrated. He snorts and says this is just a desperate death struggle. But he's clearly prepared for this too. Suddenly, one of the guys nearby tries to sneak an attack on him, thinking the boss is distracted. The guy swings with all his strength, but it's useless. The boss is far stronger. He takes the attacker down easily and orders everyone to keep going. He says he doesn't believe Chen's junk can last forever. He's ready to drag this out. The man beside him panics and stutters, telling the boss that the fuel is almost gone. He says that white mist is way too vicious. At that moment, Chen's voice echoes out. He casually asks Boss Lu if he's done playing with fire and jokes about whether he wants to come inside for a glass of ice water to cool off. Right after that, a notification appears saying detected strong negative emotion anger, plus 888. The people who were standing around outside, hoping to enjoy the fire show, are now completely disappointed. With the flames dying down, there's nothing left to watch. Inside his head, the boss changes his mind. He decides that just killing Chen Xiao would be letting him off too easily. He realizes this house is fireproof, sturdy, and completely self-sufficient. In his eyes, it's the perfect shelter, and now he wants it for himself. Brute force didn't work. Fire attacks failed. So he decides there's no need to keep pretending anymore. He thinks that if that's the case, then no one should blame him for tearing away the last bit of civility he has left. As he looks toward the civilians nearby, fear spreads across their faces. Chin understands exactly what's about to happen, but he's already prepared for every possibility. His resolve is firm, and he's ready for whatever comes next. If you don't want to miss out what his resolve will bring next in this epic struggle, then subscribe right now and turn on all the notifications. As the fire burns nearby, the idiot boss shouts that Chen Xiao should get the hell out and look at all these people suffering because of him. The auntie immediately starts crying and screaming at Chun, calling him a damn little brat. She blames him for offending Boss Lu and dragging everyone down with him, telling him to come out. Another guy yells that Lu Haifeng is a bastard and says that if it really comes down to it, they'll rush out and fight him to the death. Chun thinks to himself that using other people's lives to blackmail him is the oldest trick. Unfortunately, in this world, being soft-hearted is no different from committing suicide. Lu sneers and says that since Chun wants to hide like a coward, that's fine, and he'll start with this old thing instead. He grabs an elderly man who is trembling and crying in fear. At that moment, a voice shouts that Lu Haifeng will die a horrible death for doing this. When Chen hears that voice and sees what's happening, he immediately recognizes it as Grandpa Wang. He remembers how this old man once brought him water and told him to survive, saying that as long as he was alive, there would always be hope. That memory finally sparks real anger in Chun. He turns and tells Mu Kong to stay inside and protect Yu, saying he's going to settle the score with Boss Lu. The others look at him in shock, but they also understand. As Chun walks out into the sea of flames, he calmly tells Lu Haifeng that whatever grievances exist are strictly between the two of them and have nothing to do with anyone else. Lu is still gripping the old man by the collar, a torch burning in his hand. After hearing Chen's words, he throws the old man aside and mocks Chun, saying he's finally willing to crawl out of his turtle shell. He asks if Chun wants to play the hero. He then lays out his conditions, telling Chun to pay back the money, hand over the water, and leave his life behind, and maybe he'll consider letting the others go. Chun responds coldly and says he has no interest in playing the hero. The two of them stare at each other intensely. Then Chun raises his hand and points straight ahead. He says that fighting and killing are boring and only damage one's karma. He adds that he heard Lu started out running a casino, so why not settle this the way Lu is best at? He proposes a bet. Chun says that if Lu wins, everything he owns will belong to him. But if Chun wins, Lu has to release Grandpa Wong and get the hell out of this area. Then Boss Lu bursts out laughing and agrees right away. He throws the dice setup over and says they'll bet on the size of the points, 1 round to decide life or death. Chun quickly catches what was thrown to him and calmly says he's betting on big. He adds that a God of Gamblers showdown is about to begin. Both of them adjust their stances, and for a moment it really feels like they're standing in a casino instead of a burning battlefield. They start shouting loudly as they begin the gamble. The dice machine is switched on, and the dice inside start spinning wildly. As the dice roll, everyone around starts cheering for their boss, shouting that Boss Lu will definitely win. Boss Lu himself looks extremely confident. When the dice stop, he bursts out laughing and proudly announces that it's 3 sixes, a supreme roll, and that Chun has lost. Chun stays calm and tells him not to rush, saying the winner hasn't been decided yet. He then subtly manipulates the dice, using his own trick to move them as he wants. After that, he cuts through the dice cleanly and casually remarks that Boss Lu's dice don't seem to be very good quality. Everyone instantly panics when they see all the dice split in half. Someone shouts that the total points add up to 21, which is bigger than the so-called supreme roll. Chun declares that Boss Lu has lost and tells him to release the old man. Boss Lu is furious. He accuses Chun of cheating and immediately charges at him. A notification pops up saying strong negative emotion detected, anger plus 500. As Boss Lu rushes forward with a knife, he curses Chun and screams for him to die. The people around panic in fear. Chen, however, stays composed. In his mind, he thinks this is the perfect time to test his new skill. As Boss Lu lunges at him, Chun sidesteps effortlessly. He then hurls the dice machine at high speed, which terrifies Boss Lu. The machine slams into the ground, kicking up smoke and debris. Everyone rushes over in panic, shouting and asking if the boss is okay. Smoke fills the area. Boss Lu coughs and says he's fine. He orders 2 people to go find Chun for him. As the smoke starts to clear, Boss Lu suddenly spots Chun ahead and points in his direction, ordering everyone to take him down. All the goons immediately open fire, shooting wildly while shouting in excitement, eager to kill Chun. Boss Lu demands an update on the situation, but before anyone can respond, a sharp slash suddenly appears and takes down the goons standing right in front of him. Boss Lu is shocked. As the smoke finally settles, Chun is revealed standing there completely unharmed. Then Boss Lu pulls out a huge rocket launcher and says he doesn't care how strong Chun is. He says there's no way Chun can dodge this and tells him to die. He immediately fires the rocket. As the rocket shoots forward, the boss shouts that Chen's inheritance will all be his. At that moment, a notification appears saying special barrier activated. A barrier instantly wraps around Chen's entire body and protects him. The barrier takes the full impact of the rocket explosion and completely blocks it. Boss Lu starts panicking. Sweat pours down his face as he wonders what's going on. He can't believe Chun actually blocked a missile. Even he starts to feel that this guy is simply unbeatable. Chun smirks and tells Boss Lu that losing in front of so many people must be hard. He asks if Lu is planning to go back on the bet. As he speaks, Chun casually slices the missile apart with several slashes. Then he slowly starts walking forward. Seeing Chun approach, the boss feels genuine fear for the first time. Chun tells him that he doesn't even have a decent knife and says he's not worthy of negotiating terms with him. In his heart, Boss Lu thinks there's definitely something wrong with this guy and that something is seriously fishy. Chun then says Boss Lu has kept looking for trouble again and again, repeatedly crossing his bottom line, and that it's finally time to settle their score. But inside, Boss Lu is thinking fast. He realizes the fuel they brought is already used up and that fighting head-on is a losing deal. This kid has strange abilities, and his safe house is basically a gold mine. He decides it would be better to recruit Chen Xiao and earn back all his losses with interest. So even though he hates doing this, he forces a smile onto his face. With sparkling eyes and a fake friendly expression, he says that it's all a misunderstanding. He says they can be considered friends who got to know each other through a fight and asks Chun how about they make a deal. Boss Lu continues and tells Chun Xiao to listen to him. He says that killing him would only leave blood on Chen's hands and gain him nothing. He adds that in this world, human life is cheap, but he himself can help Chun survive and live better. He then brings up that he has a batch of medicine, all antibiotics like penicillin and cephalosporin. He asks if Chun understands how precious those things are right now. He explains that even a small infected wound can take a life. He offers to let Chun off the hook if Chun spares him, saying he'll split that batch of medicine with him. Chun Xiao listens carefully and then admits that in times like these, antibiotics really are hard currency. He tells Boss Lu honestly that he doesn't just have this one room and that the things he stored are far more than Lu could imagine. Hearing this, Boss Lu is shocked. He immediately points out that Chun only has food and water, and without medicine, even one illness could be fatal. He suggests cooperation and says that batch of medicine is stored in an abandoned factory in the West District, and only he knows the password. Chun stares at him coldly for a moment and then agrees, saying that tonight's matter ends here. He even puts his arm around Boss Lu's shoulder in a seemingly friendly gesture. Boss Lu hurriedly agrees, saying yes, it ends here and that it's good the misunderstanding has been cleared up. Chun Xiao then tells him to go ahead for now and says they'll talk about the details another day. Boss Lu begins to leave. His underlings look confused and call out to him, wanting to know what happened. Boss Lu simply tells them to go, and they all start walking away together. Chun Xiao keeps a sharp eye on them as they leave. When they're far enough away, he quietly mutters that a password alone can't stop him, and that even without it, he can open the door. He then turns back to the people still standing there, especially Grandpa Wang, and reassures him that it's okay now and that everyone has left. As Chun speaks to Grandpa Wang, the lady nearby can barely hold herself together. She's panicking, frustrated, and mostly overwhelmed by fear, with her status clearly showing fear plus 100. Grandpa Wang thanks Chun over and over. He says Chun saved his life and that if Chun ever needs him in the future, he should just ask. He admits he's old and can't fight anymore, but he can still help plant seedlings or do chores. Chun Xiao gently tells Grandpa Wang that he understands his intentions and asks him to go back, lock his door, and rest well. As the moon hangs overhead and the heat keeps rising even at night, everyone finally retreats indoors. While walking back, one guy in the group mutters that Chun Xiao scared him half to death earlier. Up ahead, Boss Lu is walking with them. He sneers and says that Chun Xiao is just some reckless youngster. He scoffs at the idea of really splitting the medicine and says that talk of cooperation was nothing but a stalling tactic. He explains that he only wanted to stabilize Chen first. Once he figures out how to get his hands on Chen's supplies, he'll deal with him properly. He adds that if Chen thinks he can fight him, then he's still far too green. Hearing this, the underlings immediately start flattering him. One of them says the boss is wise. Another echoes the same thing and adds that Chun Xiao dares to fight Boss Lu, and he probably won't live more than 3 days. Boss Lu's expression turns serious. He says that something is definitely wrong with Chun Xiao. Even artillery shells couldn't get close to him, which makes no sense. He orders Pineapple Head to spend the next few days investigating Chun Xiao carefully. But before he can say anything more, something suddenly strikes him hard and knocks him to the ground. The underlings are instantly terrified. One of them shouts to run. Another screams, asking if there's a ghost or something. None of them can believe what just happened. In their panic, they all scatter and flee, leaving Boss Lu lying alone on the ground. On a nearby building, a figure stands quietly with one hand extended. It's Chun Xiao. He calmly says goodbye to Boss Lu forever. Later that night, a loud announcement echoes everywhere. It declares an emergency notification, saying the global high-temperature phenomenon is completely out of control. Multiple climate tipping points have been breached, and the ecosystem is on the verge of collapse. Authorities formally suggest that residents make a choice based on their situation. One option is to migrate north to the temporary shelters established by the government. The other option is to stay put and wait for rescue. The announcement repeats that this is not a drill. Chun Xiao listens and thinks it through. He says going north to that so-called Pure Land will soon turn into a new purgatory. Waiting for rescue is an even bigger fantasy. In his mind, he knows the real nightmare has only just begun. As he thinks about the monsters, he calmly reflects. He thinks that before long, heat-resistant mutant beasts will start devouring everything created by civilization. He also knows that awakened humans will appear and form factions, fighting over resources and killing each other. He realizes that what he needs to do isn't just guard this safe house. He wants to turn it into the final fortress for survival in the apocalypse. Outside, many people are already starving. Someone shouts that they're starving to death and that their homes have burned down to nothing, asking what about Chun Xiao. Another person yells that Chun Xiao is occupying such a big, sturdy fortress all by himself, enjoying food, drinks, and air conditioning. Anger keeps building among the crowd. One man starts pounding on the door and shouts for Chun Xiao to come out. He blames Chun for refusing to help earlier and says that because of that, everyone ended up like this. He demands an explanation. Others follow up, saying they've already decided that Chun must share the safe house. They claim everyone should take turns living there for collective survival, smirking as they say it. Inside, Chun Xiao doesn't react at all. He listens to some relaxing music while calmly doing household chores, completely at ease. He even takes a picture of the nice meal he prepared and posts it, casually scrolling through the comments afterward. As he looks at the reactions, status notifications pop up showing jealousy plus 150, anger plus 130, and despair plus 95. Chun Xiao looks at the comments and thinks that incompetent fury is the cheapest emotion in the apocalypse. Outside, the crowd can only shout, curse, and throw things to vent their frustration. Some even smash their own phones. One man throws his phone away and curses, saying that since Chun refused a toast, he'll be forced to drink a forfeit, and swears he'll definitely take Chun down. Meanwhile, Chun Xiao thinks about the abandoned factory in the West District and decides he'll go scout the route first. But the moment he steps out, people start throwing things at him. Among the flying debris, a machete suddenly comes straight toward him. As Chen Xiao dodges the objects flying straight at him, he sees a few people charging toward him, shouting that if he doesn't give up the house today, they'll cripple him. But the moment they see Chun Xiao moving straight at them, they're stunned. Chun Xiao grabs one guy's attacking hand and twists it hard, forcing the weapon to fall out. The man can't believe how fast Chun Xiao is. Another guy tries to attack from behind, but Chun Xiao dodges that too. After disarming the first guy, Chun Xiao now has the weapon in his own hand. Just then, another man sees his chance and rushes in to attack. As the guy winds up, Chun Xiao stares at him coldly and unleashes a series of rapid slashes, one after another. In an instant, all the attackers are down on the ground. One of the fallen men trembles and says that Chun Xiao actually dared to attack people in broad daylight, with so many witnesses watching. A notification pops up showing fear plus 1,000. Chun Xiao calmly responds that taking them down would just dirty his hands, so there's no way he'll do that. Hearing this only makes the people on the ground feel even more humiliated. As Chun Xiao walks away, he thinks that finishing them off directly would be letting them off too easily. In this weather, with wound infections, ulcers, and sepsis, they'll slowly rot in pain within a few days. Later, at the West District factory, which is sealed shut even during the daytime, Chun notices a surveillance camera. He immediately cuts it down, destroying it along with some nearby equipment. He slips inside and quietly looks around. Soon, he starts coughing and realizes it's poison gas. He curses and understands that this is a trap and that he's in real trouble now. Suddenly, he senses other people nearby. One of them rushes over wearing a mask and quickly injects Chen Xiao with something, shocking him. The masked man calmly says that the young man should feel a bit better now. He explains that although the nerve gas isn't fatal, it's extremely unpleasant. Chun Xiao demands to know who they are. In his mind, he wonders why there are guards here. Lu Haifeng never mentioned this. He suspects that old bastard might have set him up, but these two don't seem openly malicious. As the masked man puts the syringe away and hands another injection to the woman, he introduces himself and says his name is Lin Guodong and that he's a biomedical researcher. Then he starts thinking that this place is really strange, with all kinds of weird stuff lying around everywhere. It feels more like a laboratory than a simple medicine storage room. As they walk around, Lin says that Chun needs medicine anyway, so he can take whatever he wants. He tells him to consider it an apology for the security measures and also a small meeting gift. Chun immediately starts checking the shelves, picking out what he might need. He stuffs his bag with all kinds of useful and interesting medicines. After a while, he slings the bag over his shoulder and says thanks. As Chun turns to leave, Lin keeps watching him and then calmly says that they'll meet again. Later in the evening, even though it's already night, the heat is still unbearable. When Chun Xiao finally gets back home, he suddenly feels uneasy. He thinks that although Professor Lin saved him and didn't make things difficult, the way that man looked at him really gave him the creeps. Just then, a notification pops up in the homeowners group chat. Someone is desperately asking who has antibiotics or hemostatic drugs, saying they're willing to buy at a high price. Seeing this, Chun Xiao immediately thinks about the medicine he just got. He figures he only picked up a few boxes, but the effects should be good. Still, he decides they're not for sale. That single decision instantly makes the group explode. One person curses him and calls him a selfish villain. Another threatens him, saying once they recover, they'll come straight to his door and take him down. Someone else tells him to just wait. Notifications start popping up non-stop, showing anger plus 99, hatred plus 200, and jealousy plus 380. Chun Xiao calmly ignores the insults and starts rummaging through his bag. Suddenly, his expression changes when he pulls something out and realizes it's a tracker. At that moment, everything clicks. Now he understands why he felt those creepy vibes back there. As he processes this discovery, Chun Xiao calmly disables the tracker. The initial shock fades, replaced by cold determination. He realizes that Professor Lin's so-called kindness was just a disguise, and that this so-called meeting was nothing more than a setup. The true situation is finally clear, and Chun Xiao quietly prepares himself for the challenges that are about to come. But what's we gonna do next? If you don't want to miss it, subscribe right now and turn on all the notifications.